So we've got to have a much more balanced relationship with cell phones. We're like kids who just found a toy and we can't put it down. Now there's a trend, thank goodness, in restaurants where they have baskets at the front. You can't come into the restaurant with cell phone. This needs to be the beginning of a pattern that everyone is employing throughout their life. Same should happen in your life. In the past, when you came home from work, you had family time, rest time, private time. Why don't you just drop it at the front door? Unless there's an emergency that you're awaiting, you don't need to constantly be on the cell phone. And if what you are doing is entertaining yourself with the computers in your hand, get a life. Find other ways to entertain yourself. You have legs, you have a body, there's outdoors. There's so many things you can do in nature, in your life. Be with people, communicate with people. What you have to understand is that one of the factors in longevity today is community. And having a friend in the cell phone is not community. Toxic waste all over. They took the umbilical cords of babies, I think it was in something like 82 countries around the world, in the hospitals, and they saw that every one of these mothers in that womb was feeding toxins, plastics, heavy metals, pharmaceutical drugs, inadvertently, through their lifestyle, through living on a polluted planet, into the little embryo that became that little girl and little boy. These synthetic chemical toxins found in food, clothing, all over the place, these completely confuse your hormones. As a matter of fact, as sophisticated and as brilliant as the human body is, the more I study it, the more in awe I am of it. Just the other day I was reading something I couldn't even imagine a week before we were going to discover about how you function. But what we do know is that the body sees all man-made chemicals as estrogens. So needless to say, this is why cancers, in great part, not in total, are growing and going through the ceiling because they're estrogenically triggered. Breast cancer is about 93% estrogenic, prostate cancer over 90% estrogenic, but even liver cancer, brain cancer, all of those literally have an estrogen tie or connection to it. We have to understand that estrogens also change your psyche, and they can feminize boys and masculate girls. And so when we are getting these in our lifestyle, it is unquestionably one of the reasons there's such confusion today reigning throughout the Western world. And what we have to also understand is that when you look at the way we eat, the kind of things we call food that are not food, like animal flesh, be it fish, be it chicken or turkey, be it pork, be it steer, steak, be it wild game, be it eggs. All of these things are bioaccumulated toxins. So the steer, as an example, to make one point, is out eating pound after pound after pound of polluted grass, and unfortunately, in factory farming, even so-called, quote, organic factory farming, they're feeding grains to these animals. They're eating pound after pound, kilo after kilo, every day that. And those toxic grasses, those toxic grains, are putting into the muscle of that animal massive amounts of pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. So that's why when you eat an animal, it is much more egregious in giving you diseases like cancer. We have to understand, mothers pass these things down to you, and the younger you are, meaning now, it's more toxic than ever. And I don't see anyone talking about resolution than environmental groups and people we have here on The Real Truth About Health. No government seems to have the stomach to really do what it takes to save their citizens, no less the future of the human race. Artificial ingredients. One of the most disturbing things I discovered, whenever I think things are really wacky, I'm always told, no, there's even wackier things going on. And what happened is Dr. David Kessler, the former head of the Food and Drug Administration, and I had a conversation a number of years ago where he revealed to me that he found that all major food companies, national and international companies, hire chemists that their entire role is to create synthetic opiates. I'll say it again, synthetic opiates, legalized opiates, to put into foods so that you and your loved ones get permanently addicted to that product. Not bad enough, sugar is actually more addictive, this is a factual statement, than heroin and cocaine. So those of you out there saying, well, I only eat agave syrup 2 pounds a day, forgive yourself. It's not that you're weak, you're addicted to it. Now, on top of the sugar, which is massively addictive, that's why they've always put that in foods. They started that back at the beginning of the 20th century. Now they're adding synthetic opiates to get you double addicted to it. You may want to look into this. This is called hyperpalatability. So if you can't stop eating the potato chip, it's most likely because it has these hyperpalatability opiate synthetic chemicals put into it. When I asked Kessler, isn't this illegal? He said, no, these are not on the chart of illicit medicines. And if they are ever tagged, if somebody comes and questions it, they have the second one in that will take 5 to 10 years to get off the market anyway. Be very cautious, people. Your best friend is your heart and the mind in your heart that speaks to you. And yes, you need to trust by starting to trust yourself and then bringing into your sphere of life others that you can trust. But don't think somebody's watching out for your well-being and health and longevity. That's not the plan, I can assure you. Hidden triggers. One of the things I never thought about before I sat down and wrote this book on body imagery, body weight, all of these things we're discussing today, is how sounds and fragrances literally trigger us to eat. Now, one of the most interesting conversations I had as a little 10-year-old boy, there was a big boy down the street, as we called him. He was 16 or 17. He was the co-manager at the local movie theater. Now, movie theaters were a big deal. At 35 cents, I would go in on a Saturday, and it was a one-time mom and dad could deposit all of the kids in a safe environment. We'd watch movies, for 3-4 hours. And whenever I'd walk into that, I remember smelling popcorn like I've never smelled popcorn before. It was permeating the entire atmosphere. It was almost, you could, in the air, you could feel the grease, the butter or the synthetic butter from the popcorn. And at 10, I was talking to this big boy down the street, 16, 17-year-old kid. And he said to me, oh, we do that. We actually blow the fragrance of the popcorn in so we sell more popcorn. And then I found shortly after that, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, that they were doing subliminal imagery in films and in commercials, where they show one shot every 20 or one shot every 10 and one shot every 5 to give you an image that leads you. So this triggering is understood by marketers and food manufacturers, but you have gotten the triggers yourself from things you literally did that you became addicted to. Now, isn't this interesting? When I was a kid, I was addicted to these little chocolate peanut butter cups. I just couldn't stop eating them. As a matter of fact, we would go down to the New Jersey shore, and they had wheels where you spin the wheel, you put back then 5 cents, it's probably $2 now. And when your number came up, you won something. And the only place I wanted to go, the only little business I wanted to go to was the one that had boxes of candies. And when I would win that, my grandparents thought it was so cute that every once in a while, they'd probably spend more money than they would if they bought the box. So I would get excited and I'd win a box of Reese's Buttercup, and I would eat all of those candies in one day. And nobody stopped me. They thought it was a great thing to see me do this. Little did I know I was being triggered. And for many, many years, when I would hear people open up those candy wrappings, it would trigger me. Now, thank God I had the wherewithal by then not to do it. But when I first changed my lifestyle, believe me, it was very easy to slip back, as many of you are finding now. The triggers, the fragrances, the sounds, the memories, all of these things seduce us in, and then we're given the addictive substances of sugar and synthetic opiates to keep us in. Harvard Medical School research examined data from 120,000 women and men. Now think of this, over a 20-year period. That's a big study. Every 4 years, they looked at these people and looked at an average. Every 4 years, over a 20-year period, people gained 3.3 pounds. Now, obviously, some ate and some 1 or 2, but the truth of the matter is, why was everyone gaining weight? When they looked at it, what we just talked about, potato chips, potatoes, sugar-sweetened beverages, and processed meats. As the World Health Organization told you a few years ago, it was really cute the way they placed it out so they didn't offend the meat industry. They said, if you eat 2 pieces of bacon a week, you have a 15 to 20% higher incidence of colorectal cancer. Now, whoever eats 2 pieces a week, think about this. And these are the things that are putting weight on the body. And one of the biggest costs in all of the developed world today is obesity. This is costing trillions of dollars. And we sit and yell about budgeting. Why doesn't anyone address these issues? Why doesn't anyone stop these corrupt, quote, food manufacturers? They're not food, stuff manufacturers, we should go. Why doesn't somebody stop? The only time I saw it is Mayor Bloomberg, when he was mayor in New York City, he actually put a major tax on these astronomically large sodas. It used to take 2 people to carry the soda out. And he said, well, if you want to take those, we're going to charge you shocking high amounts of money for it. Everyone yelled, oh, that's not freedom. Yes, it is, because he was wise enough to understand economics. And he looked at all the uninsured people alone in New York City that was costing millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars because they had heart attacks, strokes, cancers, and diabetes. And uninsured people, basically, who's paying for them? You. You're paying for them. So it's about time we start to speak straight to people. And by the way, stop these notorious producers of death and dying products. And that's exactly what they are. Most popular diet programs have been found to lack nutrients. Now we go right back again and talk about, here they are purporting to be healthy diets to make your body something you want to be in, strong and muscular and the right weight. And they get everyone worked up, and they realize the public has a very short attention span. And so it doesn't really have to work. So every 5 years, they roll out the latest, greatest philosophy, of which when we did a deep dive into it, I always do deep dives when I'm writing and I'm speaking. So I don't hesitate giving you data and facts that are supported by science. They found that almost every single one of the most popular diets in the world lack nutrients. Now, again, you have this trigger in the brain. It's amazing when you think about this. It's a hormone that actually knows if you're satiated, if you're fed, if you're nourished. And so when I was really, really big, I ate from the minute I got up to the minute I went to bed. And as I pointed out, sometimes I would bring the cake or the pie or the ice cream into the bed with. Why? Because that little hormone in my brain was screaming, you're starving, you're starving.